Welcome to Islandwood. I'm so happy you're here. My name's Michaela. I use any pronouns used with positive intent. And I'm really excited to show you around campus today. I'm hoping I can answer the questions, any questions you have about the graduate program in education for environment and community. Let's go. So one of the things I always like to tell people as we walk through here is to just take a deep breath. The way it feels to be amongst so much more than human world and to smell all the green around us is one of the things I love most about being here on Islandwood's Bainbridge campus. As you get more familiar with this space, you'll be able to see more and more different kinds of green, different beings out there, and the older relatives in the natural world that we are lucky to live with here. What we've just walked is the path that students in the school overnight program walk as they come to Islandwood. Those are the students in your practicum that you'll be getting to teach every other week when you're a grad student here. They would then go off to the sides, but we're gonna come up to the Welcome Center, which is kind of the centerpiece of main campus here on Bainbridge at Islandwood. We have events programs here on the weekends, SOP during the week, and grad students live here as well, by and large. It's a living and learning community. Come on in. We're gonna go into the Great Hall. It's a really powerful, important space here on campus, and I want you to draw your attention to the house post at the end of the hall on the stage. So this is a traditional Coast Salish house post, and it represents a really revered elder from the Upper Skagit tribe named Vi Hilbert. And Vi Hilbert's a huge presence here on this campus and in this area for her work in reviving the Lushootseed language, which is the language of the Coast Salish people. We're gonna pop into the dining hall real quick. I just need to grab a cup of coffee. So this is the dining hall where events, dinners happen, but also importantly for grads, where SOP students have all of their meals when they're here with us at Islandwood. It's one of the things that students remember the most from their time here, and the kitchen puts in so much work and so much time into making that food nutritious and accessible for and inclusive for all students here. The grads often eat in the PDR, but I'm gonna grab coffee real quick and then we can be on our way. So this is Ichthyology Inn, otherwise known by us here at Islandwood as Fish Tank. And it's one of the lodges where students in the school overnight program stay overnight. And you can kind of notice if you look up close on the building that there are like little windows, 4 in a square. That's because the buildings here at Islandwood were designed with and for children. And so kids said that the thing that they really wanted to see when they came to Islandwood was having like a window by their bed when they stayed in a bunk bed. So there's windows by every bed, and every bed has a little reading light. And we'll notice that a lot as we wander, that a lot of the designs here are designed with children in mind. So this is the forest loop, and students, grad students, will bring their SOP students here for lots of different reasons. There's a great place to play a game called Camouflage down at the end. Also for solo walks, which are a really central part of the SOP curriculum if you want them to be. You have a lot of curricular control in your practicum. So one of the things that's super important to us in this program is developing you as a justice-oriented practitioner. So the practicum offers you an opportunity to put that reflective practice into practice, for lack of a better word. And so it's a bi-weekly schedule, and every other week you're going back and forth between teaching and your synthesis week. And when you're teaching, you get to experiment and you get to really think about, okay, what does justice-oriented teaching look like for me? And how do I put my values into practice with my students in the practicum? So that's really the center of our program here, that practicum center. And it's a model of what we call praxis in the field. And praxis is that toggling back and forth always between theory and practice, having practice-informed theory, having theory-informed practice. And that's what we think really makes someone a mature and justice-oriented practitioner. But we're gonna go to a really fun place here on campus. We are really fortunate to have 2 tree houses, and they are big favorites for SOP students here. This one's my favorite because it's kind of witchy, and it overlooks the bog, which is a pretty special part of campus. Our bog isn't a true bog, it's kind of part bog, part fen. But you can imagine a bog as like a cereal bowl of moss. A true bog doesn't have water going in and out. This has a little bit of water going out into the marsh. But when we go up into the tree house, we'll get a beautiful view of the bog, which might even still be in flower. Let's go up. So what I like to tell students when we come in here is that we're gonna enter this space with intention and curiosity. So set an intention and get curious. Hot dog! So being up here, you can kind of forget that we are in a city. We're in the city of Bainbridge, which is kind of like a suburb or bedroom community for Seattle. And we're really lucky to have that positioning and to be in this place on this land. It's the lands and waters of the Coast Salish people who have stewarded this land and continue to steward this land since time immemorial. And we encourage grads and the students they teach in the practicum to think about what stewardship looks like for them in their communities and here at Islandwood. So we are leaving main campus, which is where practicum happens, where SOP happens, where grad classes happen, and we're heading to grad campus. This is where most grad students live, though some folks do live off campus if you have pets or if you have partners. That's who tends to live off campus, or if you already live in the area. Our grad campus can house up to 22 grads, and there are cabins and a lodge, so kind of different options for folks based on their preferences. So this is the grad garden. There's a garden on campus, and maybe we'll head there later. But the grad garden is just for grads to design and learn with and from by themselves for the year. So you can choose what you want to grow, how you want to grow it. It's a way where you can teach each other, learn from the land, from the plants. This is Grad Commons, and it's where grads live, where it's like, imagine it as your living room for those who have cabins, and for anyone else too. Each cabin is set up kind of like an L, and there's a unit on each end that has a loft, and then the angle of the L is a shared bathroom. Grad campus is also a 10 to 15 minute walk from campus. So when you're heading to campus for class or for practicum, it's not too far. You can also bike there, and plenty of folks drive as well. That cabin back there was my cabin when I was a grad. In the EEC program, community is definitely a choice. Our year chose it, most years do, but it takes the shape of the class that comes in. So living intentionally together is part of the living and learning model here at Islandwood, and part of that community building that grads bring in themselves. So we're gonna walk back along the Marsh Loop Trail, and this is a trail that you can do solo walks on or other kind of immersive walking activities with your practicum students in SOP. And we're gonna watch our step. There's some roots, there's some wet spots. Keep an eye out. As we wander, I encourage you to take a look around. What do you notice? With those noticings, what do you wonder? What questions does this space make you think? And maybe this place reminds you of somewhere you've been before, or lands and waters that are important to you. What does it remind you of? What you just practiced is a I notice, I wonder, and it reminds me of framework. This is a teaching framework that comes from the Beatles curriculum, which we use here at Islandwood. Like I said, your practicum is really open for you to experiment with, but this is a really helpful tool in getting yourself and your students to start noticing the more than human world around you. One thing that we really try to teach students and learn for ourselves is thinking about humans as a part of nature rather than apart from nature. How are you part of nature everywhere you go, in every part of your life? And what can we learn from our older siblings of creation, like plants and other more than human others? Like I said before, the practicum is the center of our program. We're really a program designed for folks who want to deepen their practice as justice-oriented educators. Folks go on from our program to do all sorts of things, but the thing that ties them all together is this idea of thinking about your vocation or your calling as an educator. After I finished my master's degree, I originally thought that I was going to go back to be in classroom, and I realized that no matter what my job title, I identify as an educator. I'm interested in learning and growing with others in relationship towards development and expansion, towards transformation. We call it an immersive and intense experience. When I was applying, I had come out of an organized camping and youth leadership background, and I thought, oh, I know what intensive is, I know what immersive is, like that labeling isn't for me. It was. It's an intense and immersive experience, meaning when you're teaching in the field, that is a 40-hour week of being with students, of deepening your practice, of being outside. And then on your synthesis weeks, you're nourishing yourself in whatever ways fill your cup, whether that is being in community, taking on paid work, working on schoolwork, and leaning into reflective practice, meeting with your mentor. One-to-one mentoring is a centerpiece of that practicum experience, and it's working with an experienced educator who is in one-to-one relationship with you, centered around your growth in practice. You drive that relationship, and you get to set the terms of it. Mentorship is about relationship and about transformation, just like most of the other parts of our program as well. On our way down to Max Pond, we're gonna walk by one of our other tree house, the Learning Tree House. We're here at Max Pond. It's a really beautiful place on campus. I know I've said that about everywhere, but it's also true here. We are really fortunate to have this space to learn with and in. Oftentimes there's a kingfisher around that you'll hear kind of flitting from tree to tree and making it known that this is his space. When you are a student here, you are always inhabiting both the roles of learner and educator, and you learn with and from your peers, with and from faculty, and with and from your students in the practicum. And folks come, as I said earlier, who are interested in digging into their practice as educators. So that's often folks who've had a little bit of experience in the field, but not always. There's plenty of people who come who've never taught before, and this is the place where they learn to dig into that. As I've said before, we're a justice-oriented grad program, and we are always learning and growing in that. We see justice as a process and a pursuit, not as a destination that we have reached. We value learning with and from our graduate students, and have made changes to the program to try and increase the access and equity of our program, but much work is still to be done. We are a white-dominated and white-led field, and that is true for our grad program as well, but that is shifting, and we hope to be part of seeing that shift greater in the field and in our society as well. We tend to attract folks who are passionate about teaching, about justice, and about their own growth and development. And one thing I really recommend to folks who are considering applying to this program is do some reflective work about your why. What brings you to grad school? What keeps you in this profession? What does justice mean to you? And what are you going to bring to this community to help enrich and grow that work? So most of our grads, as I said, see their calling or their vocation as education. And what that looks like, more nitty-gritty, can look like a lot of different things. Some folks end up in schools where they teach in classroom, or are specialists, like a garden educator. Others end up in informal ed, like nonprofits like Islandwood, or working for backcountry or organized camping. Some folks end up in more interpretive education roles, like working in a museum or working in the Park Service. And then still others work in as varied field as agriculture, academia, and many folks end up in positions like me or Dr. Day, which is nonprofits and leadership roles in those nonprofits. We really see our role as helping develop that leadership skills. What are you going to take from this program and use in the next space where you have authority, where you have leadership, and how are you going to use those skills to build a better future for yourself and your students? Behind me is the Canopy Tower, which is a teaching structure here at Islandwood that you can use to think vertically. Oftentimes when we look and we compare, we're just looking horizontally. But in a forest, as in many ecosystems, diversity happens along levels. So as you move up the Canopy Tower, what do you notice that's different? When you're up at the top, what does that vantage point give you? What can you see from up top that you couldn't have noticed down here? So off the Canopy Tower is the suspension bridge. As you cross it, what do you notice? What do you wonder? This is a space for lots of different things in teaching, but I like to use it as a place to reflect and to let yourself be immersed in the place around you. So as we go across, let's notice. So we're going to tour some more grad-focused spaces here on campus, the prep room and the grad classroom. This space is for you to work in however serves you best, but in particular, it's a place where folks who are in their teaching weeks during the practicum prep and gather for SOP. Any kinds of materials that you might want to use or need for teaching SOP are stored up here. We have a huge collection of children's books, which are really important teaching tools here at Islandwood. You're always toggling between teacher-student. That also means you're toggling between being a student at the UW as well. The entire time that you're at Islandwood, you're enrolled at UW as a Master's of Ed student. The first 10 months of that degree are here at Islandwood in the practicum, and then the last 2 quarters are at UW on the Seattle campus. So we're going to go into the grad classroom where a lot of grad life happens here at Islandwood. This is where practicum happens on Mondays, and debrief lunch happens on Thursdays. Practicum prep on Mondays is the place where you get to set an intention for the week and get to work on a theme that you're going to be engaging with your students that week. Debrief is a time where we have lunch as a community and get to reflect on that experience. What worked? What didn't? What would you do different next time? All of your grad classes happen here, except for a couple that happen at UW's campus in the spring. So this is a space where grads spend a lot of time. And it's a space that is really dependent on community stewardship. So that idea of living and learning in community really comes alive here. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on this tour with us. I hope that you had some noticings and are coming away with some wonderings. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Wherever you are in your graduate program journey, if this is your first thought about graduate school or you're coming next month, don't hesitate to email or call me. I love to chat with prospective students, and it's truly my pleasure to help you on your journey towards graduate school. Thanks again, and hope to hear from you soon.